Are you sure you can even afford this place? That's the first sentence Victoria Lang says to Janelle Harris the moment she walks through the polished glass doors of Lang & Company. Weddings. No warm greeting. No professional courtesy. Just that cutting question, sharp, entitled, and dripping with condescension. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more jaw-dropping stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to our main character. Are you sure you can even afford this place? That's the first sentence Victoria Lang says to Janelle Harris the moment she walks through the polished glass doors of Lang & Company. Weddings. No warm greeting. No professional courtesy. Just that cutting question, sharp, entitled, and dripping with condescension. And Janelle, a woman who has spent her entire adult life breaking ceilings no one thought she could reach, freezes for just half a breath. Not because she doubts herself, but because she's heard that exact tone before. In school, when teachers assumed she couldn't keep up. In business, when competitors thought she couldn't possibly run a luxury design firm on her own. And even in parent-teacher conferences, when strangers assumed her son must be troubled simply because she raised him alone. But today, she's not just a mother or a businesswoman. She's a bride. A woman planning the most intimate, sacred day of her life. And already, before she's even taken a seat, she's being judged. Victoria doesn't stop. She tilts her head, smiles in that way that isn't really a smile, and adds, "We specialize in high-end weddings. Most of our clients have 7-figure budgets. I just wouldn't want you to waste your time if, well, you know." Janelle doesn't answer right away. She sets her bag down, takes a chair across the sleek marble desk, and meets Victoria's eyes. Her silence is calm, but it carries weight. Inside, though, she's replaying every sacrifice she's made to be here, the long nights drafting blueprints at her kitchen table, her son asleep in the next room. The mornings she pitched clients who thought her skin color meant she couldn't deliver luxury. The deals she won anyway. The empire she built brick by brick, name by name. And here sits Victoria Lang, assuming all of that is invisible. A pause stretches. Janelle's silence unsettles Victoria, so the planner laughs, light, airy, forced. "Don't get me wrong," she says, tapping her glossy nails on the desk. "Everyone deserves a beautiful wedding. I guess I didn't expect you to walk in here. Most of our brides come in dripping with designer labels. Chanel bags, Cartier bracelets, that kind of thing. You seem practical." The word lands like a slap. Practical. In Victoria's mouth, it's not a compliment, it's code for plain, unworthy, second class. Janelle finally speaks. Her voice is steady, lower than before, almost deliberate. "Are you suggesting I don't belong here?" Victoria laughs again, too quickly. "Oh no, don't take it personally. I just like to be honest with my clients. Some services aren't for everyone. Our packages start at $500,000, and they only go up from there. Most single parents I've worked with tend to," she stops herself, but the damage is already done. There it is. The bias, naked and bold. Victoria has pegged Janelle as just another single mom who must be scraping by, who should be grateful for whatever scraps the world allows her. And here's the part that cuts even deeper. 2 assistants sit a few feet away at another desk, pretending to scroll through spreadsheets, but Janelle can hear their stifled giggles. They're listening. They're entertained. Janelle leans back in her chair, folding her arms. She doesn't rush to defend herself. She's learned something powerful in business: silence unsettles the arrogant more than anger ever could. But Victoria takes that silence as an invitation to keep talking. "You have to understand," she says, voice warm like honey but sharp underneath, "we're a boutique firm. Exclusive. Elite. Our brides are usually from families with, well, legacies. Wealth, reputation, that sort of thing. Not that I'm saying you can't dream big, of course. But, we don't exactly do budget-friendly. Janelle raises a brow. Did I ask for budget-friendly? Victoria falters, just for a moment. But then she doubles down, her tone clipped now. No, but, look, I've been doing this for 15 years. I can usually tell when someone is out of their depth. And, well, forgive me, but you don't carry yourself like someone who belongs in this studio. That word again. Belong. Always belonging. Always permission. The assistants giggle again, louder this time, and one even whispers, she really thought she could come here, before muffling her laugh with a cough. And that's the moment. The exact moment the room shifts. Because humiliation like this, it's not new to Janelle, but this time, she refuses to let it sink her spirit. She straightens her posture, looks Victoria directly in the eye, and says calmly, then let's see if you're right. Silence follows. Heavy, uncomfortable. The kind of silence that makes the assistant stop giggling. Janelle doesn't flinch. And that's where everything begins. Victoria's smile tightens. You can almost hear her trying to decide if Janelle's calmness is defiance or ignorance. She shifts in her chair, straightens the stack of glossy bridal magazines on her desk, and clears her throat. Well, she says finally, why don't we begin with the basics? Guest count. Venue ideas. Though, again, you should know, our packages are not for the faint of heart. Most of our couples start with 500 guests, at venues like the Langham or the Ritz. Do you have a number in mind? Janelle nods once, as if it's the simplest question in the world. Yes. I do. Victoria flips open her leather-bound planner, pen poised. And that number is... Janelle lets the answer hang in the air for a moment, watching the anticipation flicker across the planner's face. 472. The assistants at the back exchange a glance, stifling laughter again. One of them whispers, just loud enough to be overheard, she probably counted cousins and church friends. But Janelle's expression doesn't shift. She speaks as though she hasn't heard the slight. 472 confirmed guests. And yes, I've already received RSVPs from most of them. Victoria's pen stalls halfway across the page. She forces another smile. That's ambitious. Quite ambitious. Are you sure those numbers are realistic? Janelle leans forward slightly. I don't deal in unrealistic numbers, Ms. Lang. My entire life runs on precision. The calmness in her voice carries more weight than a raised tone ever could. But Victoria, still blind to the storm she's walking into, presses further. All right. And do these, confirmed guests, require travel accommodations? Or are they local? Both, Janelle says smoothly. Some are flying in from out of state. Others from overseas. Private flights, security details, the usual. The assistants laugh again, this time openly. One mutters, she's making it up as she goes, and the other lets out a snort she doesn't bother hiding. Victoria chuckles politely, almost as if she agrees with them. I see. Well, that kind of guest list would require some very, let's say exclusive connections. Hotels fully booked, high-security transport. Most brides don't have that sort of access. And there it is again, the quiet, persistent dismissal. The assumption that Janelle is exaggerating, pretending, playing dress-up in a world that doesn't belong to her. Janelle doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't snap back. She simply says, with a calm steadiness, you'll find I'm not like most brides. The line lands like a slow strike of thunder, quiet, but undeniable. For the first time, Victoria falters. Her pen taps nervously against the page. She shifts, crossing and uncrossing her legs beneath the desk. And yet, she forces out another attempt to regain control. Of course, she says lightly. But we do need to be realistic. I'm sure you want your day to be special, but with numbers that high, and with, well, your circumstances, it might be best to scale down your expectations. Circumstances? Janelle asks, voice still even. Victoria waves her hand, vague, dismissive. You know. Being a single mother. Working, I assume, a regular job. Budget constraints. I just don't want you to get overwhelmed. The assistants laugh again, sharper this time, like hyenas circling prey. Janelle doesn't take the bait. She simply folds her hands on the desk, her silence louder than any protest. And that silence, again, unsettles Victoria. So she fills it. You'd be surprised how often people come in here with champagne dreams on, well, let's just say, beer budgets. I'd hate for you to embarrass yourself by overreaching. That word, embarrass. Directed not at Victoria, not at her firm, but at Janelle. A warning. A veiled insult. A reminder of where she supposedly stands. But Janelle's eyes stay steady. Tell me something, Ms. Lang, she says quietly. Do you always speak to your clients this way? Or just the ones you've already decided can't afford you? The air in the studio shifts. The assistants stop giggling. Even they know that line has weight. Victoria stiffens, forcing a laugh. I'm just being honest. Isn't honesty better than false hope? Janelle lets the question hang. Then she leans back in her chair and says softly, we'll see. And in that moment, though no one in the room knows it yet, the stage is set. Because Janelle Harris isn't just another woman planning a wedding. She isn't just a mother trying to balance bills and dreams. She is a woman who has built an empire of design and influence, who counts among her clients the very people Victoria Lang could never dream of speaking to without trembling. But Victoria doesn't know that. Not yet. What she does know is this: something about Janelle's silence unnerves her. Something about the quiet confidence in her tone makes her feel as if she's missing a piece of the puzzle. So she pushes harder. All right then, she says briskly, tapping her pen against the page. Let's hear about this guest list. Who exactly are these 472 people? If you don't mind me asking. And just like that, Victoria opens the door to the very truth that will shatter her arrogance. But Janelle doesn't step through it yet. She smiles, small, patient, the kind of smile that belongs to someone who knows the ending before the story even begins. Don't worry, she says gently. You'll find out soon enough. And with that, the hook closes, leaving every person in that studio hanging on a silence that feels heavier than any insult ever could. Have you ever been judged before someone even knew your name? If this moment already has you hooked, hit follow so you don't miss what comes next. Victoria Lang doesn't realize it, but she has already crossed a line. The moment she asks Janelle to detail her guest list, she digs her own grave one word at a time. But in her arrogance, she thinks she's cornered Janelle, pressing her into either confessing a fantasy or admitting defeat. And so, she leans forward eagerly, pen poised, waiting for names she can ridicule. Janelle doesn't rush. She sits back, folds her hands together, and answers slowly. Like I said, 472 confirmed guests. Victoria laughs, light and artificial. Yes, you mentioned that. I'm just curious who these confirmed guests are. After all, the type of guest determines the type of wedding. I wouldn't want to book a ballroom too large if, say, half your list are neighbors or co-workers you felt obligated to invite. Janelle tilts her head, voice calm. And what makes you think that's the case? Well, Victoria says smoothly, I pride myself on reading people. It's part of being in this industry. And forgive me, but it doesn't take long to see when someone is reaching beyond their means. Most brides who come in here, when they start throwing out numbers in the hundreds, it's usually inflated. Aspirational. The assistants at the back let out a quiet snicker, and one adds under her breath, she probably means Facebook friends. Victoria smirks at that, not even pretending to reprimand them. So, she continues, let's be realistic. Out of your so-called 472, how many are truly attending? 100? 2? Janelle's eyes narrow ever so slightly. Why do you assume I'm exaggerating? Experience, Victoria replies, her tone clipped. 15 years of doing this. You learn to separate real clients from dreamers. And that word, dreamers, hits with deliberate weight. The kind of word used to dismiss. The kind of word meant to shrink someone into silence. But Janelle doesn't shrink. She stays steady. Interesting, she says softly. Tell me, Ms. Lang, how many of your brides have you dismissed before hearing them out fully? Victoria blinks, caught off guard. Excuse me? You heard me. The assistants lean forward slightly, suddenly invested. Victoria clears her throat. I don't dismiss anyone. I simply guide brides toward realistic expectations. Some people appreciate honesty. And others, Janelle says evenly, hear arrogance dressed up as honesty. The words settle like a weight across the table. For a moment, the room is still. Even the assistants stop giggling, sensing that something is shifting. But Victoria, unwilling to lose face, leans back and crosses her arms. Let me explain something, Ms. Harris. Lang & Company isn't just a wedding planning firm. We're a legacy brand. Our clients are the daughters of diplomats, the sons of CEOs, people whose names are recognized in the Wall Street Journal. That's our clientele. That's our image. So you must understand why I need to be certain you fit that standard before investing time. The arrogance in her tone is unshakable. She truly believes her firm is above reproach, above accountability. Janelle remains poised. And what standard is that? Victoria waves her hand as if it's obvious. Wealth. Class. Influence. Legacy. The kind of families who don't need to say their names, because everyone already knows them. The assistants nod, smirking in agreement. One murmurs, not PTA moms and coupon cutters. Janelle's voice stays calm, but inside, she feels the sting. Not because she doubts herself, but because she knows exactly how many black women have been dismissed this way, reduced to stereotypes in rooms where they work twice as hard to stand. Victoria presses on. So tell me, who, exactly, are these guests of yours? Or would you rather admit that maybe you overshot the number? Janelle's lips curl into a faint smile. Not wide, not dramatic, just a smile that says she sees the game, and she's willing to play it for now. You'll have your answers soon, she says. Victoria frowns. That's evasive. It's intentional, Janelle replies. The assistants exchange confused looks. Victoria sighs, exasperated. All right then. Let's move on. Budget. What are we working with here? Janelle meets her gaze. Unlimited. The assistants burst out laughing this time, no attempt to hide it. One claps her hands together, mocking. Unlimited. Oh, that's a good one. Even Victoria laughs, loud, dismissive, cruel. Come now. Be serious. Unlimited isn't a number. It's not meant to be, Janelle answers calmly. It's meant to be a boundary you don't need to worry about. Victoria rolls her eyes. There's no such thing as unlimited. Everyone has limits. Especially, well, in your situation. My situation? Janelle asks, voice dangerously soft. Victoria hesitates, but arrogance wins over caution. Yes. Single mother, modest appearance, no obvious markers of wealth. Look, I don't mean to offend, but this firm doesn't run on fantasies. We run on reality. And the reality is, clients like you usually don't last past the consultation. The words hang heavy, dripping with condescension. And for the first time, Janelle lets silence fill the air completely. She doesn't answer. She doesn't defend. She doesn't explain. She simply sits. And the silence is deafening. Victoria shifts uncomfortably. The assistant stops smiling. For the first time, the balance of power feels unstable. Finally, Janelle speaks. Do you know why I came here? Victoria blinks. To plan your wedding? Yes. But not just that. I came here to see how far your assumptions would go. And you've exceeded expectations. The line lands like a blow. Victoria stiffens, taken aback. Excuse me? You heard me, Janelle says. Every word you've spoken since I walked in here has been about who you think I am, not who I actually am. You've assumed I can't afford you. You've assumed my guest list is inflated. You've assumed my circumstances dictate my worth. But not once have you asked me who I am, or what I do, or why I can say without hesitation that I have 472 confirmed guests. Her tone is calm, almost conversational, but the truth beneath it is sharp, undeniable. Victoria opens her mouth to respond, but for once, no words come out. The assistants glance at each other, suddenly uneasy. Janelle leans forward slightly. You've made your position clear. You don't think I belong here. Fine. But the question is, when the truth comes out, and you realize exactly who you've spoken to this way, will you still believe you run on reality? The words echo in the silence that follows. And in that moment, the rising tension peaks. The assistants fidget in their chairs. Victoria's face flushes, though she tries to mask it with a thin smile. But Janelle doesn't relent. She sits back again, calm, composed, waiting. And the waiting, that's what rattles Victoria most of all. Because for the first time, she feels like maybe she's the one out of her depth. You've heard the humiliation build, word by word, insult by insult. But what happens when the truth finally comes out? Stay with me, and if you've ever been underestimated, share this story so more people hear it. The silence after Janelle's last words lingers, heavy and undeniable. Victoria tries to brush it off with a laugh that sounds brittle, but the crack in her confidence has begun to show. She smooths the papers on her desk, trying to reassert control. Well, she says, voice clipped, I suppose we should stop wasting time and get to the real details. You claim 472 guests. Let's see this list, shall we? Assuming, of course, you actually have one. The assistants chuckle again, emboldened by their boss's attempt at control. One of them mutters, she probably scribbled names on notebook paper. Janelle doesn't react. She reaches into her leather tote, pulls out a sleek black folder, and places it gently on the table. No flourish. No grand gesture. Just quiet certainty. Victoria eyes it, skeptical. What's that? My guest list, Janelle replies simply. The assistants lean forward, curious despite themselves. Victoria arches a brow, trying to sound unimpressed. All right, let's see it. Janelle opens the folder, flips past neatly tabbed dividers, and slides a printed page across the marble desk. She doesn't push it far, just enough that Victoria has to reach for it. Victoria takes it with a smirk, glances down, and begins to read. And then, her smirk falters. Because the first name is not a cousin, not a coworker, not a church friend. It is Senator Abigail Monroe, a woman whose policies have shaped state legislation for decades. Victoria blinks, clears her throat, and flips to the next line. Ambassador Richard Collins. The next. Adele Thompson, Fortune 100 CEO. The next. Leon Jacobs, Academy Award-winning actor. Name after name, each one heavier than the last, each one more impossible to dismiss. The assistant stops snickering. One leans over Victoria's shoulder, eyes widening. Wait, is that? Victoria slaps her hand down, covering part of the page. But it's too late. The illusion of superiority has cracked. Janelle watches calmly, not gloating, not rushing. Just waiting. Victoria forces a laugh, high and strained. These can't be real. They are, Janelle says evenly. Each name confirmed. Each invitation already accepted. Would you like to see the correspondence? Before Victoria can answer, Janelle pulls out a second folder. This one filled with letters, embossed seals, signed notes of congratulations. She places them one by one on the desk, her movements slow, deliberate. Senator Monroe sent her RSVP 3 weeks ago, she says. Ambassador Collins is flying in from Geneva, on his own jet. Adele Thompson is bringing her entire family. Leon Jacobs? He insisted on performing a song during the reception. Victoria's hand trembles as she flips through the documents, each one authentic, each one undeniable. The assistants whisper to each other, shock clear in their voices. Is this real? It has to be, look at the seals. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Victoria forces another laugh, but it cracks halfway through. All right, fine. You've made your point. You know, some people. But that doesn't mean you belong here. Connections don't equal class. Janelle's smile is faint, patient. Connections? Ms. Lang, these are not connections. These are clients. My clients. I built my firm from the ground up. Harris Design Group. Perhaps you've heard of it. Victoria freezes. The name lands heavy. The assistants gasp. Wait, the Harris Design Group? Janelle nods once. Yes. Luxury interiors, bespoke projects. Private contracts with embassies, museums, celebrity estates. That Harris Design Group. Victoria's face drains of color. Janelle's voice stays calm, but each word carries the weight of years of labor. I didn't walk into your studio to play pretend, Ms. Lang. I came here as a client. As a bride. And instead of treating me with the respect you show others, you mocked me. You reduced me to stereotypes. You dismissed me before you even asked my name. The assistants shift uncomfortably, suddenly ashamed of their earlier laughter. But Janelle isn't finished. She leans forward, voice still soft but sharper now. Do you know what it feels like, Ms. Lang? To walk into a room you've more than earned the right to enter, only to be treated as if you don't belong? To have every accomplishment erased by someone else's assumptions? I've lived with that my whole life. But today, I refuse to accept it. Victoria opens her mouth, but no words come out. Janelle continues, pulling out her phone. You wanted proof? Here's more. She scrolls and then sets the device on the table. Emails from my clients. Confirmations of attendance. Contracts signed. Payments made. You doubted my guest list. Here's your reality. Victoria stares at the screen, speechless. The assistants exchange wide-eyed glances. For the first time, Janelle allows herself a small smile. Not cruel, not mocking, just the satisfaction of truth revealed. 472, she repeats. Each one an individual who has trusted me, worked with me, celebrated with me. And now, each one attending my wedding. So tell me again, Ms. Lang, who exactly doesn't belong here? The silence that follows is suffocating. Victoria's lips tremble. Her hands fidget with the papers, scattering them slightly across the desk. She tries to form words, but all that comes out is a stammer. I didn't realize. Janelle nods. No. You didn't. Because you didn't care to. And that is the difference between you and me. I build. You belittle. I create. You assume. And in this moment, everyone in this room has witnessed the truth. The assistants lower their eyes, unable to meet Janelle's gaze. Victoria swallows hard, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. But the apology rings hollow, brittle. Janelle stands, gathering her folders with calm precision. Sorry does not erase arrogance. Sorry does not erase the humiliation you tried to place on me the moment I walked through that door. What matters now is what happens when truth meets arrogance. And as you'll soon find out, truth always wins. She slips the folders back into her tote, straightens her shoulders, and walks toward the door. Her heels click against the polished floor, each step a reminder that she carries herself with dignity, not permission. And behind her, Victoria Lang sits in silence, the weight of realization crashing down in waves. The assistants whisper softly, "She really is that Janelle Harris." Yes. She is. And with that, the reveal is complete. Janelle doesn't look back. She doesn't need to. The truth has already spoken louder than any insult ever could. Did you feel that shift, the silence when her power was finally undeniable? Drop a comment about the exact moment this story turned for you, and let's talk about it. Victoria Lang sat frozen behind her gleaming marble desk long after Janelle's footsteps faded down the hallway. For years, she had crafted her reputation like a diamond, sharp, flawless, untouchable. But now, cracks were spreading across the surface, widening faster than she could control. The assistants lingered in silence, unsure whether to comfort their boss or pretend nothing had happened. The atmosphere had shifted entirely. The smirks and superiority from minutes ago had dissolved into unease, embarrassment, and guilt. One of them finally whispered, She's that Janelle Harris." The word seemed to echo in the room. Janelle Harris, the designer whose name alone commanded respect in circles Victoria had only brushed against. The realization was brutal. While Victoria had mocked her, Janelle had quietly built an empire of her own. By the next morning, the story was already spreading. It started with a single post from one of Victoria's own interns, a girl with a private account but a loose tongue. "You won't believe what just happened at work. Boss tried to humiliate a client, turns out the woman is basically a powerhouse." Janelle Harris. Yes, her. The one with embassies and celebrity contracts. I swear, the air left the room when she revealed her name. The post gained traction fast. Screenshots multiplied. Suddenly, whispers turned into discussions, discussions into threads, and threads into a storm. On wedding forums, brides shared their own stories of being dismissed at Lang Studios. Women wrote about consultations that ended in tears, about assistants who smirked at their clothes, about mistaken assumptions that all pointed to the same rot underneath Victoria's polished brand. One woman wrote, "When I walked in with my mom, she assumed we couldn't afford her packages. She spoke to us like we were wasting her time. We left humiliated. I never said anything because I thought it was just me. But now I realize, it's a pattern." Another chimed in, "They mocked my accent. Told me my vision was too much for my background. I knew exactly what they meant. I never went back." Dozens of comments followed. Each one chipped away at the illusion Victoria had fought to maintain. The carefully curated image of exclusivity was beginning to look like arrogance, discrimination, and cruelty dressed up as high standards. Victoria tried to contain the damage. She ordered her staff not to comment online. She reached out to public relations firms, demanding an immediate reputation management strategy. She told herself this would blow over, like every other minor scandal in the wedding industry. But this was different. Because Janelle's name carried weight. And unlike faceless complaints, this time, the story had a central figure everyone respected. Within days, mainstream wedding blogs picked it up. Headlines appeared. Arrogance at Lang Studios? Bride revealed as elite designer, sparks industry reckoning. Victoria Lang under fire after client mistreatment goes public. Janelle Harris incident opens floodgate of past complaints. Victoria's phone rang endlessly, angry clients demanding refunds, partners reconsidering collaborations, magazines quietly pulling features. The cracks were now fissures, threatening to bring her empire down. Meanwhile, Janelle moved with quiet composure. She didn't post online. She didn't brag. She didn't fan the flames. Instead, she focused on her wedding, her clients, her work. That restraint only added to her power, people noticed. The dignity with which she carried herself contrasted sharply with Victoria's frantic attempts at control. When asked in an interview if she wanted to comment on the scandal, Janelle gave a simple response. "I'd rather let my work speak for itself. But I will say this, no bride should ever walk into a room and feel less than human. Not because of how she looks, not because of where she comes from, not because of anyone else's prejudice. If this moment can change that for even one woman, then I'm glad the truth came to light." Those words spread faster than Victoria's apologies. They were quoted, reposted, turned into graphics. And for countless women, they became a rallying cry. But the storm for Victoria was only beginning. Old lawsuits resurfaced, settlements quietly paid off years ago by her lawyers. Former employees stepped forward, detailing toxic work environments and pressure to filter which clients deserved priority. Magazines that once praised her now distanced themselves. And then came the blow she never saw coming: the investors behind her expansion project pulled out. Without that funding, her planned second studio collapsed overnight. The once unshakable brand of Victoria Lang began to crumble. Bookings dropped. Deposits were withdrawn. And while she scrambled, Janelle's star only rose higher. She received invitations to speak on design panels, features in lifestyle magazines, collaborations with other respected names. But she remained grounded, never turning her platform into vengeance. Because for her, this was never about revenge. It was about respect. The final blow came 2 months later. Victoria, desperate to salvage her reputation, issued a public apology video. She sat in her studio, makeup perfect, voice trembling as she said the words. "I want to apologize to Janelle Harris, and to anyone who has ever felt dismissed at my studio. It was never my intention to cause harm. I will do better." But the world had already moved on. The apology rang hollow, too little, too late. In contrast, the same week, Janelle quietly shared a photo from her wedding, a radiant image surrounded by guests whose names carried influence and respect. The caption was simple: "Grateful. Love wins." And the contrast was clear: one woman clinging to a crumbling throne, another rising effortlessly through authenticity and grace. That, in the end, was the consequence Victoria never anticipated. Not the lawsuits. Not the financial loss. Not even the humiliation. It was irrelevance. Because power built on arrogance can command attention for a time. But power built on truth, work, and dignity? That lasts. And while Victoria Lang faded from the headlines, Janelle Harris's name only grew stronger. The woman they tried to dismiss became the woman no one could ignore. This is what happens when arrogance collapses under the weight of truth. If you believe more people need to hear stories like this, hit like and share it with someone who needs the reminder. 6 months pass. The world has shifted since that day in the marble studio, though perhaps not in the ways anyone expected. Victoria Lang's name, once synonymous with luxury, now rarely appears in glossy magazines. When it does, it is usually in the context of lessons learned, industry cautionary tales, or what not to do in business. Her studio still exists, but the atmosphere is different. Half the staff has left, citing irreconcilable values. Clients no longer wait months for consultations. The air of superiority is gone, replaced by quiet desperation. Victoria herself is a shadow of the confident woman who once snapped judgments like whips across the room. She is still trying, still posting apologies, still offering discounts, but the industry has moved forward without her. Janelle Harris, on the other hand, has stepped into a new chapter. Her wedding became the celebration of the year, not because of extravagance, but because of who was in the room. Influential leaders, celebrated artists, philanthropists, and loyal friends, all gathered to honor her journey. And in the midst of all the attention, the core truth remained: she was a woman who had built her life with resilience, raising her son while building a company that no one could deny. That night, her vows weren't just to her husband. They were to herself, to her son, and to the countless women who had ever been told they weren't enough. 3 months after her wedding, she received an invitation to keynote a major industry conference. The theme: Respect in Design. Standing on stage, she spoke not of revenge, but of responsibility. "I don't believe in building walls between people who deserve dignity," she said. "I believe in building tables, long enough for everyone to sit at. Luxury isn't about exclusion. It's about excellence. And excellence can come from anywhere." Her words were met with a standing ovation. Clips from the speech circulated widely, quoted in articles, replayed on social media. Brides-to-be shared it with captions like, "This is what I needed to hear." Designers called it a wake-up call. And slowly, change began. Studios across the country reviewed their policies. Some announced diversity training. Others established anonymous complaint lines. A coalition of planners even drafted a new pledge: no client would be dismissed based on appearance, background, or assumptions. Was it perfect reform? No. But it was a start. As for Janelle herself, she continued to expand Harris Design Group. Her firm signed new contracts, her projects doubled, and her influence grew. Yet, those closest to her noticed that she hadn't changed at her core. She still showed up for her son's school plays, still preferred quiet evenings at home to endless galas, still believed that kindness was the most underrated strength in business. The storm had passed, but she had not been washed away. She had risen higher because of it. Victoria? She learned the hardest lesson of all. Power can be taken away, reputation can collapse, wealth can fade, but the memory of how you made people feel remains. For years, she made people feel small. And in the end, that is what people remembered most. Perhaps one day she will rebuild differently. Perhaps she won't. But her tears in that studio, the day Janelle read her guest list, were the beginning of her undoing. And now, months later, as Janelle sits in her office surrounded by designs for embassies, schools, and private homes, she reflects quietly. She thinks of that day when she walked into the studio as just another client and walked out as a symbol. She hadn't asked for it, but sometimes life decides for you. Sometimes the very moment others try to shrink you becomes the moment you grow larger than you ever imagined. So to you, listening right now, remember this. You don't have to look like power to hold it. You don't have to announce your worth for it to exist. And when someone mocks you, dismisses you, or underestimates you, it says far more about their blindness than about your value. Janelle's story is not just about a wedding planner brought low. It is about every single person who has ever been told, "You don't belong here." Because the truth is, you do. Sometimes, the best revenge is no revenge at all. Sometimes, the best revenge is living so fully, so powerfully, so authentically, that the world cannot help but recognize you. And now you know, the woman they tried to dismiss became the woman no one could ignore. If Janelle's story inspired you, subscribe for more powerful true stories, and let this message reach someone who needs it today.